People, of course, call the gospel books Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Well, they call them Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John because we don't know who wrote these books, and there's no point calling them Sam, Fred, Jerry, and Harry. I mean, they're written by people. We don't know who they were written by. They are anonymous. You might not think so because they have the title, The Gospel According to Matthew. Whoever put that title on it was an editor later. The followers of Jesus were Aramaic-speaking peasants from Galilee, lower-class men who were not educated. In fact, Peter and John in Acts chapter 4, verse 13, are literally said to be illiterate. They couldn't read and write. Of course not. They were fishermen. They didn't go to school. The vast majority of people in the ancient world never learned to read, let alone write. And their native language was Aramaic. These books are written in Greek by highly educated, rhetorically trained writers who are skilled in Greek composition.
The Gospels employ heavily this thing called ring structure. Formal terms for it are chiasmus and inclusio, have this sort of onion-layered nesting of ideas that all relate to each other. This is the entire Gospel of Matthew, from beginning to end. The entire Gospel is an elegant, extremely carefully crafted chiasmus. So you notice here, layer H of the onion. It says John's ministry. What's corresponding to it in layer H in the second half? John's death. And if we keep going in the onion, we get a rejection of Jesus in the first half, a rejection of Jesus in the second half. We get secrets revealed through Jesus in the first half, secrets revealed through Jesus in the second half. We get attack of the Pharisees, matches up with condemnation of the Pharisees. And you can go through this whole thing item by item, and it really matches up. This is Matthew's crucifixion narrative. So there are many of these chiasmuses inside the whole chiasmus of the Gospel. Judas exposed, right here, layer E. What does that line up with? Well, temple exposed. Well, that's interesting. Judas betrays Jesus. What does that line up with? Oh, Judas hangs himself. You look at all of these, they line up either as mirror images of each other or as commentaries on each other. This is a whole Sermon on the Mount diagram. It's extremely elegant chiasmus of multiply triadic structure. This is an elegant oration that was clearly written from beginning to end with careful attention to every single component. This is a literary masterpiece. It's composed in Greek. It was originally composed in Greek. It wasn't translated from Aramaic or Hebrew. One of the reasons we know that is because it's dependent for a lot of its arguments and vocabulary on the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament. So we know whoever wrote the Sermon on the Mount was some very expert Greek orator. The same thing happens with John and the Cana miracle. Here we have the first miracle at Cana occurs on the third day, and then there's a sequence of events that ends with a second miracle that Jesus performs, also at Cana, also on the third day. Now, the Cana episode has a very elaborate structure as well. I'm not going to go into it. It's very elegant. It's very meaningful.